Hey everyone, we're your hosts, Chelsea
and Robin.
And this is Don't Mind If We Do.
Finally, a relatable podcast for women where we can talk about whatever we want.
Don't mind if we do.
I'm gonna wanna get crazy. Be anything but behave like you do. Make you. Oh, don't mind if we do.
All right.
Done.
It's Robin and Chelsea and Ian Gibbs, critically acclaimed author of Victoria's Most Haunted. Before we even get going, Ian, what do you think of Chelsea's coasters?
They're amazing.
coasters.
Christmassy to the max.
Thanks.
I just
Yeah.
got them
Goodness.
for today.
They're
So that you
amazing.
could all enjoy them.
Thank you. I feel more Christmassy already.
You can even take it home with you. if you
Wow.
need to.
Wow.
Yeah, and also, this is a little gift for you for joining. It's little Lindt chocolates
Thank
for
you.
you since this is a Christmas episode.
Oh, you're
Here's
so
the deal. You have to
kind.
put as many as possible in your mouth and then tell us ghost stories, okay?
I've done that with marshmallows.
And see?
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
I also have marshmallows.
Hashtag give it to us ghost story guy. Okay? That's it. Is that? I don't know if
Dirty.
that's okay.
Very dirty.
yeah.
We're not going to hashtag give it to us on anything, I don't think, on this Christmas podcast.
Yeah, that's
Like,
fair. Okay,
Oh, unless it's gifts.
Well, yeah. Which
Hashtag-
you just got. Okay,
That's
so
true. That's
yeah.
true.
Yeah,
Give us the
that's
gifts.
all right.
Not anything else for this episode. Good.
Ian, thanks for joining us, and we're going to talk about the ghosts of Christmas past today. But first, before we do anything, we always test a drink, and Chelsea has made you a very special drink today.
Special.
It tastes very special.
Special eggnog latte. So
It's
we're
delicious.
not drinking alcohol today. You probably missed out on normal good episodes with alcohol. Sorry about that.
No.
But it's
It's tremendous. It's
Eggnog
sweet,
latte.
but not too sweet.
Yeah,
it's got a nice light.
it's
All
also
the flavors
light
come
eggnog
through. It's brilliant.
for all of us.
Thank
Oh,
you
good.
very much.
Thanks
I would never would have known that because
Right?
it's so full in taste.
Exactly. It is. It's full-bodied, like
Yeah.
myself.
like all of us.
Like
Okay,
all of
like
us.
I said.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Don't mind if we do.
Because
Don't
we're
mind if we do keep our own spirits bright. okay?
Drinking the eggnog,
Literally,
that's
on
right.
this episode, okay? Ian Gibbs, you are the best at telling ghost stories, so thanks for being here. But it's interesting because before Netflix and chill, there was just tell ghost stories around the fire at Christmas, right?
Pretty much.
Is that pretty much how it works? Okay.
Well, yeah, there's a bit more to it. It was a whole British thing, and I don't think they still do it. It's not really part of the British tradition now, but it was really big Victorian times because previous to that, Christmas wasn't even a day off. You just worked it. You worked all the time. But then people began to get together with their families. And of course, the mortality rate was high. So you would have lost people in your family that year. And it just became a time to gather around the fire. They pretty much would only heat the one main room, right? The other bedrooms would be cold and dark, and the hallways would be dark. And so you would gather in this room, kind of nervously looking over your shoulder as you have the fire going and the Yule log in there. And then they would start to tell ghost stories, which is why Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol was such a major hit, because it landed squarely in this time. Christmas only became a thing kind of 1820. When the first Christmas cards came out, and they were really bizarre looking. And then it wasn't until the early 1900s when Coca-Cola sort of solidified that Santa Claus thing that we have what we think of as Christmas. So before then, it really wasn't.
It wasn't Christmas. It was just ghost stories.
Pretty much, yeah. And remembering
Stories about
your dead family members.
Your ancestors. It was ghost stories about your ancestors.
Yeah, well, and about country house. They loved stories about country manners and, secrets and, lords messing up and then these ghosts coming back to get them or their families. It's been pretty neat. We're going to do one on ghosts and bears. We're going to read a couple of Victorian Christmas stories, and you definitely see the themes of the mighty being pulled down and their sins being discovered, and it's actually really
Ghosts
cool.
and Bears, that's your podcast about the...
It's not about the ghosts of bears.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure.
I don't know.
Pretty
He
sure.
already told us on the last one that the bear was like the full-bodied coffee.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. Right? Well played, Chelsea Smith. Don't mind if she does.
So that's kind of where the whole tradition came from. So I was learning about it because I'd heard about it before, and of course, Christmas Carol, totally famous Christmas story, and everyone's like, "Well, why are there ghosts in it? It's not Halloween." Yeah, actually, it's the other way around. We had the ghost stories at Christmas before Halloween ever came around. once. So
I love that.
It's kind of fun.
So are there any specific ones that are local to Victoria? Are there any specific Christmas ghost stories that you can share with us?
There's a really great element actually to Rogers Chocolates.
The one
Christmas
downtown,
ghost story.
obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it still exist?
Oh yeah.
It's still there?
Oh yeah. Yeah. You want to hear it?
Yeah.
All right. Well, it was Charles and Leah Rogers who came to Victoria 1885. So we were right in our heyday, right? The gold rush had happened. Victoria's growing for about 20, 30 years afterwards. It was a really hot place to be. And they had decided to come and be the greengrocers to the city. So they were going to do fruits and vegetables. And but what they discovered was by the time they got here, some of the fruit was a little not so hot. So they cut it up into strips and they would dip it in chocolate, wrap it in wax paper, and put it up for sale as candy. I mean, old fruit. Let's go get it moving. The other thing they noticed, it would sell immediately, almost sold out as soon as the shop opened. So I think that's the point where they went, screw the veggies, we're going full candy. They learned to whip up the fruit and then cover that in dark chocolate. And that, as you know, is the Rogers chocolate cream. So that's kind of where that came from.
I didn't actually know that. So
Oh, okay.
Learning-
There you
learning
go.
all sorts
We're
of
learning a
things
lot
here.
of things here, not
Yep.
just about ghosts, but also about the
Also,
preparation
candy
of chocolate.
making.
How to make candy.
Yeah.
Well, that's where it came from. Was because they had this sort of surplus fruit and they needed to do something with it. But anyway, the
For
candy
wine, when fruit goes bad, I
went
prefer it
awesome.
to go
Now
for
you know what to
wine.
do, right? Don't throw it out. Let's throw it in some pudding. Yeah. So, so it took off and it got really, really big. And the Victorians in general, I don't just mean people living in Victoria, but the era of the Victorians, they were addicted to sugar. So it could not have happened at a better time. Queen Victoria herself loved Rogers chocolates. And in those days, if the Queen liked something,
You're good.
everybody wanted it.
I
So
feel
they
like
had,
it's still that way.
yeah,
My mug right here says Queen.
there you
If
go.
the queen wants something, the queen
She
gets
gets it,
it.
yeah. And if
Right?
she likes it, it's going to be popular. 'Cause people like the Queen.
Right, there you go. So they had pretty much one of the world's first gourmet international mail order candy businesses in the world. And businesses are very, very good. However, as good as business people as they were, as excellent community members as they were not awesome parents. They had one son, and his name was Freddie. And Freddie was a problem. He'd already been asked to leave school. You can't be here. You're out of control. They brought in governesses, nannies, imported women with names like Prudence from England to try and, wrangle this child. And they couldn't do it. Everyone quit. So much so that when he was 11, his parents basically said, okay, Freddie, now you are a man. And they basically released him on the world. So now Freddie was, his time was his own to do as he pleased. And it wasn't awesome. One of the things he started to enjoy was blowing stuff up.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that is fun.
Well,
yeah.
as you do. He would head to the local hardware store, plunk down his money, say 5 pounds of dynamite, please, and they would sell it to him.
At
Now,
11. Good.
this apparently was normal when you were 11 back in the 1900s. There were farmers who had rocks and boulders and stumps and things. They would send their kids to buy all this stuff, so it wasn't completely wacky. But Freddie would go out and do one of his nature walks, as he told his parents, and he would head into the woods and blow up caves, trees. If he was hungry, he'd throw a lit stick of dynamite in a pond, see what fish floated to the surface. He could skim off the top.
Smart. Survival
Enterprising. But then he got bored with that. So he decided to mix it up a bit. And what he would do is he would take a stick of dynamite, break it up into what you might call fun-sized pieces, and head down to the streetcar that ran along Government Street, the electric streetcar, and he would pay his penny and climb on board, and he would just stand there staring at everybody. He wouldn't sit down. And when everyone was looking at him, kind of like, what do you want? He would then pull out one of these small pieces of dynamite. He would light the fuse, and he would just smile at them. And of course, they're all freaking out. And in his mind, he's sort of going 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, throw. He'd throw it off the train. It would explode midair. Everyone would freak out. Everyone on the street's freaking out. And Freddie, laughing maniacally, would jump off the train, dash between 2 buildings, and disappear. And it got to be so bad that the city of Victoria passed a law at the time that if your name was Frederick Rogers, you were not allowed on public transportation. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know how to catch him. Anyway, Freddie, his luck ran out. And when he was 16 years old, he blew off most of his right hand.
Oh, jeez.
He was left with sort of a crab claw, deaf in one ear, blind in one eye. And it really affected him so much so that when he was 16 years old, he checked into the New England Hotel, which is the building's still there on Government Street, and he took his own life. And his parents were devastated. They weren't really terrible parents. They were really more parents of that time. You didn't spend time with your kids. Crazy. What you did.
Are you supposed to?
Yeah, apparently. Here's your iPad. But what they were doing was they were doing what parents of that era did if you were a good parent, quote unquote. And they were building up a business or an estate, or this is how you showed your child and the world what a good parent you are. So my son's going to be very disappointed. Yeah, I know, I'm screwed. Still hope my mom will pull through. So this is what they'd focused on for Freddie, and now of course he's gone.
Freddie's
there was
gone.
no one else. So they were so devastated, they actually shut down their house in James Bay. They moved all their stuff into the shop, but they only really brought with them his and hers rocking chairs and their clothes. They just kind of, everything else just sort of gotten rid of. And they would work in the shop until midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, take the chairs off the wall, rock for a few hours, maybe 5 or 6 a.m., try and sleep, and then wake up, put the chairs on the wall, back to work. And they did this for the next 20 years. They just had nothing else. Their grief was 100%.
They had candy.
They had candies. That's a
point.
comfort. Yeah, that and money. Quite the comfort. So then Charles died. Leah died. The shop, in accordance with their wishes, was auctioned off. The money was given to charity. And the new owner had a little more than he had bargained for. And I'm going to leave out most of it because it is a long story, but I'm going to get to the Christmas part.
Oh, good. Christmas.
Tell me about the creepy stuff, though.
Well, there's some good
Let's
creepy
make
stuff.
Long story short, creepy stuff.
If you talk to people who work there now, they will tell you their own ghost stories. Like, it's still a very active haunting because the shop, they built the shop in 1904, and it's still the same shop. It's exactly the same. And it was built by a guy we call the haunted architect named Thomas Hooper. He built most of the buildings in the downtown core. Everyone he built has a ghost story.
Still
It's
haunted.
Insane. Yes. Christmas time though. So there was a bunch of different things that went on. But it was Christmas time about 25 years ago. And the manager walked into the shop, and at the back of the store, about 6.5 feet off the ground, there's a mirror behind a lamp. And she noticed a smudgy handprint up there. She thought, oh, that's weird. That's kind of a night crew thing to fix, but whatever. So she got the Windex and the ladder and she cleaned it off and went about her day. The next morning she comes in and there it is again. And 2 weeks before Christmas, they're busy, right? They are busy, and she does not have time to worry about this. She asked her coworkers, do you guys know anything about this? Nope, nobody did. By day 7 of this print appearing every morning, she's about to lose her mind. Like, it's like a dripping tap, right? It's not a big deal, but when you can't make it stop, it becomes a really big deal.
Yeah.
So she throws an all-staff meeting. Everyone who works here has to come to this meeting. She leaves the smudge. She brings out the ladder, and she's now making everybody climb the ladder and put their hand up next to this print because she wants to find out who's doing it. Well, it was one of the shop workers who realized it wasn't actually the smudgy print of a perfect hand. It was actually the perfect print
of
a ruined hand. And it came back every single morning until Christmas Day, and then they never saw it again. So I like to think maybe Freddie came back for one last Christmas with mom and dad, before he went to wherever he was going. But that store, very actively haunted. And like I said, I've known people who worked there for the last 20 years, and they all have their own weird thing. The most extreme, though, was one girl. For whatever reason, Mrs. Rogers did not care for her. Leah did not like her. She didn't know why. But there was a cupboard they had where they had a broom. And you had to go to the cupboard and open it up and grab the broom and sweep the floor at the end of the day. And she would go to the cupboard. There's no lock on this cupboard. There's no latch. But she would put her hand on it and it would not open. And she was fighting to get this cupboard open. And finally, in frustration, one day, she had her hand on the cupboard and she goes, please. And it opened as if it had never had a problem.
You just have to use your manners.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what she discovered. As long as she said, please, the cupboard would open. If she didn't, it wouldn't open. It would open for other people, just not for her.
Does it also work at the bank when you just go in and ask
For money?
Please.
Can I have money?
Please.
Please.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could try. Let me know how it goes.
And I'll follow you with this recorder.
Yeah.
And we'll just make our own episode of it.
Good. Yeah.
That'll be fun.
Free money from the bank.
Right.
Yeah.
If you use your manners.
But yeah, the Rogers chocolate's still very, very, very active building. And no one uses the office upstairs anymore. They haven't for years. But the workers have said they've heard chairs rolling around, old music playing, coins hitting the floor, people walking around up there. But
It's a party.
no one's been up there in a long time. Well, that's where Charles and Leah would have lived, right? Was upstairs.
They were rocking on their chairs, not having a party.
Well, they must have eaten something other than
I
candy
guess
at
they
some
would've
point.
I guess.
I'm guessing.
I don't know.
Hopefully.
Depends what they had.
It depends.
Amazing.
Yeah, eat the whipped up fruit.
The rotten fruit.
The rotten fruit. Yeah.
Ian, you've done so many ghost tours in Victoria, many of them with Discover the Past, right? What would you say, like, you've experienced a lot of stuff. Is there something that really stands out in your mind that you were like, I was terrified that day?
Yeah, good question.
Great question.
What's
Great
your
question.
freaky story?
I have, I have my own story in Helmkin Alley. I think I told you that one. I told you that one, right?
I think
don't think so.
I don't think you told us here on the podcast.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So it was a couple places. We end in a room in Burns' house in Bastion Square. And so for me, I'm sensitive to this stuff. Like I just pick up on it. I have my whole life. I thought everyone did.
The ghost whisperer.
Quite a surprise when I found out not everyone does. But anyway, so I walked into that room and I'm like, oh no. It is a very filled room, shall we say, with a pretty serious energy. And I turned to the person who was training me and I went, so what's the story with this room? And she's like, oh, it's funny you should say that. This is what we say in this room. And basically it was about, they call him the Burly Man. Because Burns' house at one time or another, like 90% of the buildings over 100 years old in Victoria, was a brothel. And when they were
Nice.
when they were digging up the back alleyways in the 80s to check the foundations on all these really old buildings, they found the skeletons of 4 European women, which had no business being behind that building. So they're thinking it was probably something to do with the Burly Man. Either he put them there or he caused them to be there or whatever. And maybe that's why he hangs out. So the story goes, so what he does sometimes with women with long hair who come into the, we call it the lair, at the end of the tour, he'll touch their hair. Like they'll feel someone stroking the back of their head.
Oh my God.
And
You're
there's
safe.
even been stories of him following people home, with certain women home. And they've called the next day and been like, yeah, you need to come and get this thing.
Like women, like right now, like when you do these ghost tours, they
Yeah.
do
Well,
it,
right now, because of COVID,
Right,
we
but-
don't go in the room. But yeah,
like recently, that
very much so. I always felt like he was there. He did not appreciate me being there. He didn't know who I was, kind of thing. So for me, I was constantly putting out this projection of just, nope, you don't need to prove anything to me. I respect you. This is your space. This is not my space. We're good, kind of thing. And so luckily for me, nothing ever happened to me in that room, but it took I've been doing the tours around 8 years now. It probably took about 3 years before I could walk into that room and not feel that kind of, what are you doing here? Kind of reaction. Now, we have an understanding, I think. He just kind of leaves me alone. But other people have gone in there and been like, oh, I want something to happen, like other guides. And one guy was challenging, like every time he went in there, yeah, come on, show yourself, prove you're here, kind of thing. And I'm like, no, because I am a coward. And he would push and push and push. And finally, one time he was doing a tour and he had a group of people in there. And no one was sitting in the front row, which is kind of normal. And he's sitting on the chair at the front. And as he's telling the story that we tell him there, one of the chairs in the front row just starts shaking, like loud enough everyone can hear it. And they're looking at him like, oh, nice touch, right? Because they think
that he's staged it.
He's staged it. And he's like, no, I'm not doing anything. No one would believe him. And this chair just kept doing this until they all left the room. And he left the room, let people out, came back in, and it was still. But and other people have experienced stuff in there too, but I'm just like, nope, please don't. I'm good. I don't need any proof. We're solid.
We know it. You're good.
So that's the one place. The other place, which is in Bastion Square, Helmkin Alley, named because Dr. Helmkin had his office at the end of the alley. Which
He was an actual doctor.
He was the actual doctor.
Yeah.
He was actually one of the, we sent 2 representatives from British Columbia to join Canada in 1867, and he was one of them.
Oh, cool.
So mostly we wanted a railroad and debt forgiveness. That was it. So we weren't super picky about joining.
So it sounds kind of like it is now, where there's not enough doctors per capita for people. It sounds like he was the only guy.
Pretty
Okay,
much.
That's fine.
Pretty
And
much.
we won
Pretty
a
much.
railway.
Right.
And we made him work until he was almost dead. Yeah, that's pretty
So
much
it's
it.
the same. Nothing changed. Yeah.
So he had his office there, and then in 1920 they put up the building that blocks the Helm Canal now on 4th Street, but the other buildings are all from 1860. So I'm in Helm Canal, and what would happen is I would tell a story at the top of the alley, because there's a kind of an intersection down there, and I'm telling the story. I had about 40 people. It was Halloween about 3 years ago. So I'm telling the story, and then I zip down into Helm Canal, because you never know what you're going to find in an alley so close to a bar. And so I would kind of try and head down there really, really quickly, so that if there was something untoward going on, I would hold the group a little further up, make a lot of noise, and then by the time we actually had to pass through the alley, whatever was going on was over. So group of 40, general rule of thumb, the larger the group, the slower they move. So I knew I had a bit of time. So I said the story. I said, okay, now speaking of lovely places, we're off to this back alley. I shoot down into the alley. Just as I step into the alley, a man's voice right beside my ear goes, Ian. And I kind of turn and look, and there's no one there. But I'm so focused on making sure the alley's clear. I'm like, whatever. And I kind of cross the alley. I look, okay, everything's clear. I lean up against the building, and then I'm standing there, and then I went, oh, crap. Because I knew exactly what had just happened, and I wasn't expecting it. It wasn't a, oh, I'm so scared. It was like a, oh, no.
Oh, the doctor's here.
Yeah, well, it's not the doctor.
Oh, the doctor wasn't in.
No.
The doctor was out.
But apparently,
Oh.
I told this story on my podcast, Ghosts and Bears, and
A podcast about.
Not about bears. Still not
and I
about
got
bears.
someone who sent me a letter about this, so I'll fill you in on my side of it. There's a man who is believed to be still down there. His nickname is Limey, and Limey was a frequent flyer of the prison system. He was always getting drunk and going to prison for a month, and then they'd let him out and, rinse and repeat. Well, the prison was in Bastion Square, and what they would do every morning is they would chain these guys together, lead them through Helm Canal out into the rest of the colony to unload ships or dig ditches or whatever was required. And then at night, they would lead them back in. And Limey was part of this chain gang, and he said something to one of the guards at the entrance to the alley that made the guard angry. And the guard hit him in the head hard and killed him.
Oh.
And he was so angry about this, he said to the other prisoners, I don't care, drag him back. And he made them drag Limey through the alley to the prison, where he then, of course, let them all go. Limey would have gotten buried in the exercise yard in the back. And apparently, Limey does not want to leave. So he does a few things, and this is how I knew it was him. He likes to, so you're walking through Helm Canal by yourself, and all of a sudden
No,
you hear
I'm not.
someone, no, me neither, me neither. But you hear someone running up behind you, heavy boots. And of course you turn, you think you're about to get jumped or something. There's nobody there. The other thing he likes to do is you're walking along, and all of a sudden it sounds like you are dragging chains. And of course you're not. And the third thing he likes to do, and this time it was him, he likes to come right up beside you and cough right in your ear. Just go, which actually during COVID is actually
It's
quite
actually
scary.
right. Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Scary.
But
Yeah.
but so he knows my name. I'm not sure how I feel about that little.
Yeah, that's
Bonus.
right.
That's a
means
nice
that
is
means
a
that you've,
bonus.
you've
Yeah.
been there enough times that he knows you by name. You're like the Norm of Cheers. But
You're friends.
Helm
Yeah.
Canal.
And that's the funny thing. He doesn't feel scary to me.
Yeah.
I go back to the room where the other guides are, and we don't talk about ghost stories. Honestly, we're like, hey, where'd you go for dinner? How's your family? Like that, we're not sitting around telling ghost stories. So I felt a little idiot, but I went into the room, and there were 5 other guides because it was Halloween. So we had a lot of people on. And I said, this is kind of weird, but have you guys ever had anything happen in Helm Canal? Well, 3 of the other guides put their hands up, and every single one was tied to Limey.
Interesting.
So it
And
wasn't
every
just
single
me.
time, the other guides were like, we heard, where's Ian?
Yeah. Where does he live? Yeah. No, I'm not looking forward to that one. No. But so I was going to tell you, Helm Canal was the site of something else happened, but this was actually a good thing with a ghost.
Okay.
This girl heard the podcast. She was from Florida, and she'd been visiting with her family, and she had said how they were on the last day of their trip, and her dad had incredibly bad hip pain, hadn't said anything, but was obviously almost not able to walk. She and her mom were really, really worried about him, and they were down in the alley, and he had his back to where Dr. Helmkin's office would have been. And the ghost person was telling all the stories and mentioned Dr. Helmkin. Well, at that point, this man, who did not believe in ghosts, by the way, this man he felt hands on his hips, and he felt a pressure where the pain was, like somebody was doing this to him. And get this, not only was the pain gone for the rest of the trip, it was gone for the next 18 months.
Oh, wow.
That's a long time.
That is crazy.
That is crazy.
And
When
as
it
far
came
as she
back,
was
did you go back
concerned,
to the
yeah, you
alley?
should have.
Right?
Yeah,
But as far as
it's
she was
pretty
concerned, this young lady, it was Dr. Helmkin, 100%.
Amazing.
So that was really cool.
That is
And I'd
cool,
never
yeah.
heard that anywhere. That was just an email I got from somebody who heard
Not
it.
all
So-
ghosts are bad.
No.
No,
Nope.
no, I don't think so.
Speaking of ghosts, and referring back to our last podcast that you were on, when you walk into this house, do you feel it?
Come on, Ian. Well, you
No.
knew this was coming.
Yeah,
No, actually, honestly,
Good,
it
they're
feels
gone.
very warm.
they're gone.
It has good energy.
Good.
It feels very, yeah. I don't know about your neighborhood. Like, do you know any history about the neighborhood up here? Was this an old piece of farmland or something? Or
Not sure. I just know.
well, it's an older rural part
of
of the city. It was at one time,
Yeah,
and then this is a whole new
just fields and
development
stuff
through here.
probably.
Yeah. No, it's interesting.
But they followed me. Remember, they came
Yeah.
with me.
I think
But
you're
they're
free of
gone.
them now.
Yeah,
I
they're
honestly
gone.
do, because there's nothing.
Yeah, I don't.
Did they
think
pay you
hear
to
it.
say that?
Well, we're in a small windowless room. If they were going to be here, they'd
Did
be
you
here.
hear someone say,
There's $100 in your car. Cool. I'm viable.
Oh my gosh, Ian Gibbs, you're the best. Thank you so much for giving us and for everyone in Victoria the gift of your ghost stories, because it's so awesome that you do this.
It's so fun.
You've got the Victoria's Most Haunted, which I've got a signed copy, critically
I wish I
acclaimed
did.
now.
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Probably had to go
I'm going
buy
to put
it.
mine down the top so you don't take it.
Well, I didn't
Makes you
give it
think
to
I
her.
wouldn't come
I didn't
in
give it to her.
That's a good point. But people can grab these books locally. You've also got Vancouver's Most Haunted too.
Yeah, that one
which
just
is-
came out in October. It's done really well so far. So
and check out the podcast,
Of course.
obviously.
yeah, Ghosts and Bears.
Some bears, not
Not
about
about the
bears.
ghosts
Oh,
of bears.
come
No,
on.
it's about the sexy man bears.
That would be really funny if you did that specific of a podcast. Like
Right?
my podcast is about the ghosts of fish or something. Like I don't know how
Just
you would
consider it.
sustain
Consider it as a
that.
spin-off of Ghosts and Bears, also about the ghosts of bears.
You could do ghosts and fish, and you could just hang out at Goldstream and interview dead salmon.
It would probably have as many listeners as we have.
Burn on our own podcast.
Was it
No.
a burn or was
No,
it?
you're
That's
right.
an awesome
That's-
no,
idea.
you're right. Yeah.
no, you guys are
Millions of listeners.
got it. I always say like dozens of you.
Like millions. I
Yeah,
think
all my
millions.
dozens of listeners.
Yeah.
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
even if there's one, right?
right?
And
And
if we just help
right?
one,
We've helped
Even if
one
it's
person.
just ourselves in our vehicles listening to it, that
It's
still
just
counts.
Ian listening to his own episode on our podcast.
well, it's like therapy, really.
Hope so.
Listen to this podcast.
If you don't listen to this, you're in trouble.
I don't even
Yeah,
listen to my
you will
own
be haunted for the
podcast.
rest of your
Limey
life.
will come to
Mostly
get
by
you.
us. Okay?
right.
You'll be haunted by the ghosts of us.
That means we're dead. I'm not dying anytime soon.
Oh yeah, no.
Limey can come after you.
Yeah,
That's
well, he
fine.
probably would.
He's already after.
Now he knows my name. I'll pass your
does.
name on to him.
Perfect. Good.
If
If
people
you're
want-
listening,
Yeah, if people want to go for a ghost tour, Ian, how do they do that?
Yeah, if you go on discoverthepast.ca or Google Ghost Walks Victoria, anything like that, you can buy your tickets online.
Perfect.
And I believe the limit is 15 people per walk.
Okay.
And they do fill up pretty quick.
And the Ghosts of Christmas Past tours are happening now.
Yes, and it's different. It's got some different stories than our usual one. Like in non-COVID times, we have 8
a
different
ghost,
tours, right?
by the
So
way.
Yes, which makes sense. Did you hear that ghost there?
That
I
was
don't know. You
amazing.
didn't.
Oh, he's not wearing
He's not wearing
headphones.
headphones. I'm like, I'm pretty sure Ian doesn't hear that.
he'll hear it when he listens to the episode later.
Yeah, and he'll be like, oh my God, there's a ghost.
yeah,
think I
perfect.
can hear
You guys
that
are
as you're
so
saying
tricky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I could only not see you,
Right.
I might fall for that.
Oh, right. We're in person.
Last question. Who wins in a fight? The ghost of Christmas past, present, or future, and why?
Future, because he already knows what the other ghosts are going to do. Boom!
Like, did
Oh, you
set that up
slayed
ahead of
that.
time?
You
No.
slayed that.
Oh, slayed?
That was
Yeah,
pathetic.
right? A sleigh,
A sleigh?
all day and into Christmas. That's the way with Ian Gibbs. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you
I
for
feel
having
left
me.
out on this corner of the jokes. Missed those ones. Corny.
Sleigh. SLEIGH.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
D-A-Y.
Well, you were busy making those
Spelling
delicious
that out.
eggnog
That's
lattes,
true.
so
Yeah, I was.
you were
Which
at a
is more
disadvantage.
important.
And put them on
It
your
is.
coasters.
It is. Put it back on the coaster.
Put
Okay,
it back
so
on
sorry.
the coaster. What is wrong with you?
You don't want to wreck this $10 IKEA table.
It's like animals in here.
Seriously.
Oh my God. GhostStoryGuide.com. Ian Gibbs, you're the best. Thanks for joining us again.
Or you
Please.
could Google sexy bears. Ian might come up.
No,
Check it out.
Ian would not come up on
I
that
don't
one. I can
Ghosts and
guarantee that
bears.
one.
Just try
Google
it.
Ghosts and
Google
Bears.
it. Yeah.
And we're on Instagram, Ghosts and Bears. And I'm on Instagram under Ghost Story Guy. So
Nice.
if you have a story, I want to hear it.
Right?
Or
Yeah.
you can find him in Helmkin Alley. with
No, you
Amy.
will not. Not unless I'm surrounded by a large group of people who are paying me to be there. That's the only way that's happening. I always tell people, I'm like, if you come back here at 3 o'clock in the morning, let me know how that goes.
Yeah. Yeah.
'Cause it
Make
won't
a
be
story
me.
about it later, for sure.
That's right. That's right.
Amazing. Well, thanks for listening. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you. Ian.
Thanks for listening to Don't Mind If We Do. If you loved it, please share this episode with a friend.
Follow us and check us out on Facebook, and we'll follow you back, as long as you don't mind if we do.
You probably won't mind. You'll probably like it.
I'm gonna